When I say very, like, it had me going off the deep end. Like, I nose dived straight into sin. Hey y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you're not. I am Torrancemarchil. I am the creator here at the T-Shelf Show. As you can see, today we have a testimony video, and I'm very excited about this video because this testimony has been in the works for literal years, like years. And I can't believe like it's finally here and I finally get to talk to you guys about it. I don't know who this is for. I'm sure it's for somebody. Like, the testimony has to be for somebody, you know? But before we get into the actual testimony, I just want to say that you don't want to miss any new videos that I come out with. Also, I will be doing like a series on like the real behind the scenes footage of how everything was happening over the past 2 weeks during my little YouTube hiatus. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any uploads. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and yeah, join the community. That is my focus here on this channel, is building community. And I want to make sure that I cultivate and maintain a community, a safe space for like-minded believers. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, if you're about into me or what God is doing through me, then yeah, tap in. Like, this video is going to be about how God supernaturally moved me to Texas with no money, no job, no car, no nothing, like nothing. I've seen these videos before and they were very, very, very encouraging to me when I was going through the motions and looking forward to everything. So the fact that I get to actually make one of these videos for you guys, like, I'm ecstatic. So before we get into the actual moving portion, and even before I like wanted to move, we're gonna get into a little bit of background about myself to kind of paint a better picture of the vessel that God chose to use. I am the eldest daughter. I'm the eldest child, period. I'm the oldest of 4. I'm the only girl. My mom was a single mother for part of my childhood, but for most of it, she was married to my stepdad. My family, I don't come from a family that's like super well off. You know, we're not swimming in money. We're not super well off, right? There are people in my family who have money, right? My grandma had a lot of money when she was working. My mom has just kind of always been just sort of getting by. When I was growing up, I never really was concerned about homelessness or like where my next meal was gonna come from, but I didn't always feel like I had everything I needed, right? So if I like needed a new pair of shoes, I didn't know if I was gonna get it, if I needed, like, I tried not to need things so that I wouldn't ask for them and be disappointed if I didn't give it. I learned really quickly not to ask for things because I just probably wasn't going to get it. That's just what it was. I understood from a very young age that my mom, she had me young. She was, you know, struggling a bit. She was doing the best she could. But even when, you know, we were in a pretty steady 2-parent household, I didn't just have everything. I didn't have, like, I made a lot of things work. I didn't have a lot of clothes, but I made it work. Electronics was one thing. Like, I always had kind of like the latest iPhone and things like that because my grandma took care of that. Like, she used to spoil me rotten back in the day. So she made sure I had like the latest phone and all that stuff. But like, as far as in-house things like clothes, shoes, even like hygiene products, my mom always kind of skimped on that stuff. And I also struggle with eczema. So like, I can't just wear Dollar Tree lotion and like Dollar Tree pads for women. And, you know, so I just never had the best of the best, unless it was given to me by someone outside of my immediate household. So, I learned very early that like money, in my mind, I thought that money or wealth was unattainable for myself because of what I seen and what I experienced growing up in my parents' home. Also just seeing it in my family. Like, if I had a millionaire uncle or something, then it might seem a bit more attainable, but I have never seen that. I also wasn't raised to know anything about money or finances or how to be a good steward over anything. So when I grew up, I also didn't have a good relationship with my mother. My family relationships were just kind of all over the place. And so I left home really early. I left home at like 17, came back at 18, left again at 19, and haven't been back since. I never really made a whole lot of money. I always made like enough money to get by, but also I wasn't a good steward of the money that I did make. I did a program called FEMA, and they pretty much pay for everything. They pay for your housing, your transportation, your food, and they also give you a little stipend every 2 weeks just for personal needs. So I never had to worry about like finding my own place or taking care of myself really, because I was being taken care of in that program. After that, I stayed with my grandma in like a hotel for a couple months in California, and then I met the father of my children. I moved in with him, and I lived with him. I moved in with him when I was like 21, and I dealt with him for a while. What's pivotal to this story is that my spiritual condition is pivotal to the story. Like most people, right? It's very hard to leave what's familiar and what's comfortable, even if it's bad for you, even if you know it's bad for you, even if you don't like it, like you know what you're getting with this thing versus doing something completely new. I also wasn't super close with God yet either. I did not know him intimately. And I was trying to the best of my ability, but it was too much other stuff going on, right? So I moved in with the father of my kids. We were just boyfriend and girlfriend. Got pregnant a couple times. That relationship was extremely toxic. So that situation was extremely toxic, and I was alone. I could not, depend on my mother. My mother and my stepdad had also separated. We're going through a divorce. So that cushion that I had with them, I no longer had. And even if I did, I wouldn't have went back anyway. Like the idea of going back home, it's just like, I wasn't going to do that. Yeah, I didn't have anywhere else to go. My grandma, that was an option because my grandma was staying with my mom, and she was basically like homeless before she moved in with my mom. And at this point, I made a decent amount of money, and I didn't have any bills. Like I didn't have to pay rent or utilities or anything like that. I really just kind of had to take care of myself and my child. But in the home, I was the only one working. So my money did go to a lot of the house. I didn't get to pocket a lot of that. And again, I just wasn't a good steward over my money. So I did kind of just spend frivolously, because in that situation, like I was so unhappy with the reality of things that I was looking for something to make me feel better, and spending always made me feel better. Because if I can get out of the house and go up the street to like a Target, spend time there and just buy dumb things to make me temporarily feel better, that's what I would do. I didn't know I was doing that at the time. But yeah, like that spirit of poverty really was like having its way with me. And I definitely believe that's something that runs in my family, because my mother is not super well off, kind of really never has. And I'm not trying to tell her business or anything like that. I've never seen her become homeless or anything like that, but she's just never had a whole lot of money. And I can see that with my grandmother as well. She had a good job, made a lot of money, but she has nothing to show for it today, So, again, not trying to dishonor anybody or tell anybody's business. This is important to the story. All the bad habits. And I was basically kind of in agreement with the spirit of poverty, familiarity, and things like that. Things in my personal life got really, really bad, and I met some people, family in Christ, and eventually they helped me out of that situation. So they helped me move out of that situation, and I lived with one of my good sister in Christ for probably like a week, maybe 2 weeks. I don't even think it was 2 weeks. Not that long I stayed with her. But then we ended up going with my guy friend because he had a lot more space than my sister. I moved in with him, lived with him for about 9 months. And at this point, I'm still not making a lot of money. And I'm still like spending like I am making a lot of money. But I'm aware of the fact that I'm trying to breeze through this because I don't want to go off on a tangent. But I've become aware that like, okay, I can't stay here forever. He never rushed me out of his house. But I just didn't want to overstay my welcome. And I knew that even though there was enough space, like this is still his house, and it's me and a newborn baby and a 3-year-old. So I began kind of like just, I remember actually it was after a birthday. I don't think it was a birthday. Maybe it was. Maybe it was a birthday. My birthday passed. And I was talking to God and I was like, God, like, why? Why don't I adult right? I should be able to have my own place and like, hit these markers as an adult. But it's so hard. Like, it feels so hard for me to do that. And I don't know why, but like, I want to finally do that. I want to finally have my own place. I want to have, my own car. I never had a car before, and all these things, right? And I feel like that moment of realization, he used that in order for me to come to agreement with a desire he had for me. And so after that, I just had a knowing that like, I'm going to move soon. Didn't know how. Again, I did have a job, but I wasn't making a whole lot of money. And it was just very hard for me to work that job because it was a call center job. And it was like COVID too. And both of my kids were always home with me. So it's very hard to do those phone jobs with babies and things around. But I began looking for places. And I think within a month of looking, maybe just a few weeks, I got a guy who, mind you, at that time I was living in DC with the kid's dad, but my friend lived in Maryland. So I was living in Maryland, right? So I basically the DMV. I was living in the DMV area. I'm looking. My credit's not great. This was something that I asked my grandma when I was pregnant the second time with my daughter. I asked her if she would get a place with me because I was just really afraid of raising two kids alone. Like, my daughter was very high maintenance and my son, like, I just knew it would be a lot of work and I wasn't really prepared for that, even though I was kind of already doing that. It's just the fact that I know I wouldn't have any help. And so I reached out, asked my grandma if she would move with me while I was pregnant. And so she said, yeah, but then I was like, let's just hold off on the moving process until after I had the baby because I don't feel like doing all that moving pregnant. Like, let's just wait. I had the baby, months went by. And I'm finally looking. I reached out to my grandma again and I'm asking her like, hey, do you still want to move? She says, yes. I thought it would be convenient. I thought it would be the perfect situation because I want to move into my own place. I want my brother to have his space back. And my grandma's the only one who had the time to help me with my kids because she's retired. She don't do anything all day. She has the time to help me. That was the situation, right? Granted, before then I had moved out before, like with tax money, but I was afraid to fully move there. I moved to Baltimore. I was afraid to fully live there because I would have had to leave my job and I didn't have enough faith to leave my job. So I ended up not ever staying at that place and that place didn't work out. So my grandma was there too. So this time I'm like, okay, let's really do this. But the thing is, I was waiting on confirmation from God about if I should move with her or not, because my grandma, like, she's not easy to live with. I'll just put it like that. But I would have dealt with some of that if that meant I could have help, I never got confirmation, but I just was like, I'm not going to keep waiting on confirmation. I'm just going to do it. And, why not? Maybe God is waiting on me to just make the decision myself. That's what I thought. That's not what he was saying. So, and I made that decision out of fear. I was afraid to raise the kids myself. So I included her in something that she was not supposed to be a part of. So, I get the place. That's a whole miracle in itself. Like, me and my grandma's credit wasn't good enough. Like, there was an eviction on her credit, I think. And it was just like, I think, yeah, it was some stuff in my credit too. Like, we were not favorable tenants. But this guy took a chance on us. I think this was his first time like being a landlord. So he took a chance on us. We got approved and we had about 3 weeks to get the money up for, first month's rent and security deposit. Getting everything turned on for the house. We had a virtual tour because this house was in Virginia, about 2.5 hours from where we lived, basically. But I didn't care because I'm like, I work remote. I can go anywhere I want. It's Virginia, like, whatever. And so, I had some friends help me out with my kids and watch them so I could work a lot to make the money. all of my friends rallied up and helped me move. Like one of my friends completely furnished my room. Like I had like a dresser, some like tall dressers, a bed. They like got me house stuff. Like they completely took care of me. Like that was a God thing. Like he organized the whole thing. They blessed the house for me. I was able to have a friend bring my grandma up. Everything seemed perfect. Like everything was literally perfect. God's hand was in all of it, right? But shortly after that, I began noticing that it was probably a mistake for me to move in with my grandma. So, you know, she just wasn't really honoring our agreements. She wasn't helping with the kids. She kind of just stayed in her room all day, and I pretty much felt like finessed. Like, okay, this lady literally just wanted a place to stay. And that was fine with me. You know, you could want a place to stay, but like our agreement was that you help me with the kids. And I ended up losing my job because she's very spiteful. So if you ask her to do something she doesn't want to do, she will like do it in a way where you don't ask her to do it again. So like I would ask her to watch the kids so I could work. My job work remote, call center work. One time I worked upstairs so that they could have the rest of the house. And she ended up bringing the baby, the crying baby, I believe she was crying, in my room while I'm working. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Y'all can have the upstairs then. I go downstairs to work. She brings the kids downstairs. Like, you know, it's just, she was doing stuff like that intentionally. Little did I know that was a spirit at work, and it was a familiar spirit at work. And we're going to get to that. So regardless, God ordained for me to be in Virginia, Harrisonburg, Virginia specifically, for this time. Like I was completely isolated from everybody, like from all my friends, from everybody. Like I was essentially out there alone, except with my kids and my grandma. He set it up that way because as soon as I got there, I was feeling like he was pressing deliverance on me, like deliverance. But I was resistant at first because I wasn't ready. Essentially, I just wasn't ready. I probably spent more time in Virginia than I really needed to. I moved there in 2021, January 1st/2nd of 2021. And had I submitted to God immediately, I probably only would have been there for like a year. But everything works out, you know, how it's supposed to work out, right? So the first year, I'm kind of just like BSing for real. You know, I'm not really trying to submit to God. I'm having a lot of issues with my grandma, and not just me personally, but like there's issues between her and my son. There's an incident with her and my daughter that really started having me think like, okay, I think I should move or she should move. But then I was like, why should I move? She should move. Like, because then she just had this big house to herself when I'm the one with the kids. Like, we need the space, you know? So I began thinking like, okay, I want to move. Like, I want to move. But it was literally just a thought. Like, I wasn't super serious about it because I'm like, it took God to get us into this house. There's no way I can get approved anywhere else. Because I had faced some denials before I got approved for that house, right? But I was just so angry at what the situation was, right? Mind you, God is still saying like, come on, like, let's do this, like, come to me. And I just really wasn't. Also, I had a new job. I started a new job this year, and I made the most amount of money I had literally ever made in my life. Like, I never made money like this before. And again, spirit of poverty is really like doing its thing in my life and in my family's life. And I'm just not a good steward of it. Granted, and again, I'm going through things, right? So little did I know I'm warring with the same spirit. The father of my children and my grandmother have the same spirit. It's a narcissistic spirit, Jezebel spirit, whatever you want to call it. That's what it is. So that thing was really like oppressing me. And even when you know what the spirit is, it's so hard to fight it. Like, you have to be intentional with just how you maneuver with this thing. And realistically, you should not have to deal with this thing in close proximity like that. But I just take it as like boot camp. Like, I dealt with this thing for like 9 years, almost 10 years, and my kid's father and in my grandmother. So I'm spending because it makes me feel good, and it keeps my mind off of what's going on at home and all these other things. Mind you, God is still like, come on, we need to spend time together. And I'm just like not really trying to go the deliverance route. 2022 comes, and same thing. Still have issues, still making a lot of money, still spending a lot of money. But things are more settled. So like, my son is in school, my daughter's in daycare, the kids are not home as much. So if they're not at home as much, there's less friction. Making a lot of money, and then I get into a relationship. 2022. Mind you, 2021 is when I first had the thought of wanting to move, but it was just literally a thought. Mind you, 2021 and 2022, God is telling me, hey, daughter, like, you need to spend time with me. And I'm just like, So 2022, I get into a relationship, right? And I fall very, very quickly for this guy because I don't know. I literally don't know. Like, I guess I do know. My spiritual condition just allowed me to just be just like, I knew this guy for about a year. He was a coworker. We were really cool at work, and he kind of fell on hard times. I helped him get a job at the company I was at. And, I just cared about him as a friend. I kind of always had some sort of interest in him. And the reason why I had interest in him really is a problem in itself. I had interest in him because he reminded me of somebody I had dated prior. Like, something about a New York dude, like that New York accent, and just, I don't know, it's just very attractive to me. And I dated a New Yorker. And so this guy kind of sort of looked and acted like my ex. So, and me and that ex, we broke up, but there was no beef or nothing like that. Like, we had a good situation. So he kind of reminded me of an ex, and I knew that. So that's kind of why I was interested in him a little bit, but I never, I played it cool just as his friend because he had somebody, and realistically, I wasn't trying to date. No way. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, 2022, he is single, and it's my birthday, and he reaches out for my birthday random because we never talked like that. And that's the beginning of the end, really. He reaches out for my birthday, and we start dating like a month later. Like, we started talking a lot, boyfriend and girlfriend a month later. Long distance. I was in Virginia. He lived in New York. He came to see me for Christmas break. And that was it was great. Like, that guy literally was the best guy I had ever dated. Like, he wasn't disrespectful to me. He didn't treat me bad or anything like that. He just, we just weren't compatible. That's really just, and of course we weren't compatible because he was not saved, He wasn't saved. I was saved. I was lukewarm. Okay, but I was saved. He wasn't saved at all from my understanding. So of course we're not compatible, but also in other instances, we're just not compatible. Like, there were some serious things that we couldn't look past. And so it didn't really work. I knew that, and I did not want to let go of him because I just liked being wanted by someone. I had severe daddy issues and rejection issues, abandonment issues. So that's what was keeping me there. Now we're in 2023. Now, mind you, that December 2022, we have a group chat of me and a couple of my other, Christian friends. And me and this girl, Tarima, and my brother, Greg, we all kind of put in the chat, big things are coming, change is coming this next year, and things are happening, and I could just feel it. And I just thought it was interesting because I was feeling the same way. I was feeling the same way that they were feeling. And, but I knew, I'm like, it's going to take longer. Like, a lot is going to happen next year, which would be 2023, but it's not going to be what I want. I knew, I had a knowing that in order for me to get where I want to get, I'm going to have to go through some ugly things. And that's probably what was going to happen in 2023. And 2024/2025 is when I was going to be able to get what I desired, right? Only I didn't really know what I desired yet. I had a feeling. Mind you, I still want to move, right? But it's literally just a thought. I'm not serious about it. I'm not thinking anything of it, like, because that would just be a lot. So I'm thinking big things are happening in 2023. I have this boyfriend that I'm like, we're crazy about each other. And then January 2023 comes. And I go to see my boyfriend in Philly. We meet in Philly. And we have a good time, but hold on, sorry. So I go to see my boyfriend in Philly. And things go well, except for the end of the night. The end of the night, I feel like something was off a little bit, but whatever. Long story short, he ends up breaking up with me because he's just like, for the same reason I said, we just weren't compatible. And the things that we clashed on were really important things, like how we choose to parent, how we view certain things. Like, these are really important things that if you look past now, you will grow to resent each other for it later. These aren't just minor things. So even though I understood why we broke up, I was very devastated by it. And when I say very, like, it had me going off the deep end. Like, I nosedived straight into sin. And I knew better. Like, I knew better. I was smoking weed. I was drinking liquor. I was fornicating. I went back to my baby daddy child. Dove back into his bed, and just was like doing all sorts of things. One, because I just was like, forget it. Like, I was just so off the deep end. But also, I kind of wanted his attention a little bit because he was still follow each other on social media, so I wanted his attention a little bit, and I didn't really get it. Like, he didn't really care about what I was doing. And that made me even more upset. And so it just, and I remember talking to my best friend at the time, and she was like, you know better. So I'm not going to say anything, but like February 1st, you got to wrap this up. So that's what I did. February, I wrapped it up, and I unintentionally I went. It was me and God, like, because I just knew that, like, I'm not okay. And God's the only one who can help me be okay. But little did I know God was going to take me on a roller coaster in 2023. Like, I've talked about this year before. And this year was really just about, like, stripping, unlearning, and discovering yourself. Like, I went to therapy for the first time that year, and I dealt with a lot of stuff. I dealt with a lot of childhood trauma stuff. I dealt with a lot of, like, the daddy issues, the spirit of rejection, abandonment. I dealt with so much stuff that year, like, just a huge spiritual unpacking. And I did that all 2023. 2023 was a very hard year for me. It's very, very hard. But towards the end of it, I felt much better. Like, pretty much all my relationships were gone. Any relationship God did not want me to have was out the picture. Like, gone, done. Okay. And I was ready. I thought I was ready for new relationships, but he was not allowing me to have new relationships. The only relationship I really had that entire year was with my sister Tarima, who was going through a very similar season in her life. And so we were really leaning on each other during this wilderness phase, right? Now, during this year, 2023, I have desires, right? Like, God-given desires. And these things are, one, moving. Two, I think that's when he told me to start the podcast. I think that's what he gave me the idea for it. Basically, like, the podcast, start the business. Also quit my job, 2023. I quit my job July 2023. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I wanted to quit anyway. I hated it. I hated my job, but I was gonna do it because I needed to pay bills. But God was like, I'm calling you out of that. You quit your job. You gotta quit your job. And so even though I was happy to quit my job, I was very scared to. So that entire year was just about like faith building and leaning on God and trusting God and getting to know him. And I got to know him so intimately that year. Like, and that was the foundation for everything else. It's like before God can really bless you with what you want and what he wants for you, he has to make you ready. He has to prepare you to be the person who can have that and be a good steward of that. And if he would have given me everything back then, I wasn't ready, even though I felt like it, because I was tired of suffering. I was tired of going without because I don't have a job. I'm crying every other day. I'm going through so many things, and it was just intense, but it was so good for my soul. Like, I needed that. Like, I ended 2023 a completely different person. But then going into 2024, the Lord allowed my water to get cut off because again, I didn't have no money for it. And he did not allow me to find provision from nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was no provision. He dried up every resource. And I didn't really understand why. One of those reasons is a legal reason. And that comes into play later. But also, I think he was just trying to teach me something about him. Like, suffer, we just got to suffer. And sometimes there's not really a reason for it that we would know. It's just a part of life. We just got to suffer. You know what I'm saying? And so I spent the first quarter of 2024 at my baby father's house. But I don't think anything happened. It literally was just like, I need help. Like, my car got impounded because my grandma was driving my car with no license. So she got pulled over. My car got impounded. He helped me with that. And I will say, during that time, me and my baby father do not have the best relationship at all by any means. But during this time, the Lord really used him to take care of me and my kids. So, like, whatever money I needed, he gave it to me. And he usually didn't complain. He didn't complain up until about this time when I was at his house and everything, right? And so I was on food stamps, child. Somebody stole my freaking food stamp. It was just a lot. A lot was happening at one time. And I had gotten so miserable that I just didn't even care anymore. I was like, it is what it is. And then once I got there, God made provision. It's like he had to just break me some more. Like, I just need another form of breaking. And at this point, I'm like, God, I done been broke. You done broke me all year. How much more breaking do I need? But he's God, so he knows. So he was like, yeah, you need to be broken a little bit more. So he broke me down. I got my taxes. I was able to pay everything I needed to pay. I went back home. Going back home, though, it's 2024. Going back home, I had this feeling of don't renew anything. So, like, my son was in sports 2023. In 2024, I just had a feeling, don't put him back in sports because you're not going to be here. Like, don't put him back in sports. Don't renew anything. Don't put Eden back in daycare for another year. Just don't do any of those things. Like, let's prepare to close things out here. I didn't know why. I had no logical reason to feel this way, but this is how I felt. And I know God I know God more at this point. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do anything, and I'm thinking I'm going to leave sooner than I was, but I still just honored it. So I was pretty much like letting everything die down, didn't join any more sports, I didn't allow myself to feel at home in Harrisonburg anymore because I knew that my time was up. My Justin, I'm still not working. I don't have no job, okay? And I'm not consistent with the things that he told me to do because I'm still warring in my house with my grandma, right? And so I'm not doing content creation consistently. I'm not doing anything that I'm supposed to do consistently because I'm in bondage because there's this spirit in my house that I'm consistently warring with. And at this point, God, like, he doesn't arrange it to where my landlord was so sick of me, so he took my name off the lease. So my grandma's name was on the lease. He was like, look, you pay this amount every week or so, and if your grandma, if she tells you to leave, you gotta leave. And so I was really upset about that, because you don't ever want to give somebody with that spirit that much control over you and where you lay your head. So I was very upset about that, but I understood that God was setting it up to where I could leave with no obligation when it's time to. So also early January 2024, there was a legal issue that I was, an issue that I was going to take the legal route for, right? But nothing really came of it. People say they wasn't going to pay, whatever. Fast forward to about the summer, and I'm trying not to forget anything. Fast forward to the summer. August comes. Mind you, like, that second quarter of the year, my car is messed up. Like, I've never had car issues before, but this year I'm having a lot of car issues. I didn't have no money, so I could not pay my car note, my insurance. And Virginia is one of those states where you don't have to have insurance, so I wasn't really worried about the insurance. But I couldn't pay my car note, so my car was up for repossession for like year. God made a lot of provision for me there, because realistically, I should have been kicked out. I should have been evicted from my house in Harrisonburg like 2 years prior. My car should have been repossessed, but God just allowed me so much grace to be able to still use my car and lay my head where I was laying my head at, even though there was issues going on there. So I'm having car issues, and the issue that my car is having is like, this costs like hundreds of dollars, like $800 and up to fix. I don't have that money to fix it, right? And then my check engine light comes on it's flashing on and off. And if you cannot drive your car when it's like that. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do? My daughter was still going to daycare. That's the main reason I was using my car, is because we had to drive her to daycare. But she was graduating daycare like in 2 weeks or something. Because she was supposed to start pre-K, but she got accepted into pre-K. So I told her daycare she wasn't coming back. And then 2 weeks into her schooling, they said, oh, actually, we have to withdraw her because she's too young. So, but I believe that the Lord allowed her to get accepted, so that I told her daycare she's not coming back. Because if I knew she was too young to go to pre-K, I would have probably renewed her to go there for another year. And God did not want me to do that. So he works everything out, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, we're still driving with my car like that. We was taking a risk, but my daughter had to go to school. She had to go to her graduation rehearsals, and we went to her graduation. Mind you, August, so I have car problems, but we're like phasing out of everything, Virginia, right? My landlord comes over like early August, and he's like, hey, I've given y'all enough chances. Torrance isn't working, and apparently my grandma only paid him partial rent. So he's like, I'm not going to evict y'all because I really like y'all, but y'all have to leave. By the end of the month, y'all got to leave. I took that as a sign from God. For one, that was the grace of God, because my dad landlord was so gracious with us, like for real. For real. The fact that he didn't evict us, but he just asked us to leave, I knew that was God, because God did not want an eviction on my credit, so that when I did apply for places to live, that wouldn't be on there. You know what I'm saying? So I knew that was God, and it was also just gracious of him to just have us like just leave and everything's cool. Like there's no legal action, just honor each other and, do what you do. I knew that. I didn't tell anybody that because it's nobody's business, right? So in my head, I'm like, okay, God obviously gonna make a way, because by this point I know where he wants me to move. So before then, I just was like wanting to move in Virginia and things like that. But towards the end of 2023, God really started highlighting Dallas to me. He highlighted Texas first, and he started highlighting Dallas. So I'm like, okay, I guess God wants me to move to Dallas, Texas. Okay, cool. So at this point, I'm like, okay, he gonna find a way to relocate me to Dallas, Texas, right? So, but I'm worried about my car because my car is how I will be moving. Lo and behold, I had a check waiting for me for months and I did not know about it. So right when it's time for me to move from Virginia, I get this check in the mail. But I'm not thinking about using it to move. I'm thinking about using it for my car. So I go to my regular neighborhood mechanic. He's saying to fix my issue would be hundreds of dollars, like $800 something, right? Then God redirects me to the Hyundai dealership because I had a Hyundai. So I took it to the dealership and the engine was the issue. But the engine was covered under warranty. So I was able to get a brand new freaking engine for free. And then I think I just paid like less than $200, maybe just about $200 for like maintenance, like a new tire, oil change, and some other stuff for the car. So what would have cost me $800 some only cost me like $200 some. So I was so grateful for that. Now I had all this extra money ready. Now, at this time where I should have really been close to God, seeking instruction and next steps, I wasn't. I was completely distracted. I was on TikTok. I was just on social media heavy, not in my word, not praying, not nothing. But I'm just like, oh yeah, God gonna figure it out. So, and I'm still just spending the money. I have this limited money and I'm just spending. I have a couple $100 left. I have nowhere to go. I don't know what's going on. And August 28th comes. I told my landlord I'd be out by August 28th because that was the weekend. He had like new tenants who wanted to move in September 1st. So I do my very best to get rid of things, sell things, and pack up my car. I did the very best that I could. My grandma packed up her stuff and, she said she was good. And that next day, August 29th, I think, I hit the road. And I drive all the way to Dallas, Texas, which is like 19 freaking hours from Harrisonburg. 18, 19, whatever. A very long drive. And I have nowhere to go. I barely have enough money to get down there. I have enough money for gas and gas only and maybe to eat here or there. I don't have enough money for a hotel room. I don't have enough money for nothing. But I'm like, okay, God, I'm trusting you to like basically make something appear out of thin air once I get there. Like there's provision for me waiting there when I get there. And so I get there and I bust out crying because I'm like disappointed. I feel played. I feel like God abandoned me and led me on, which is crazy because girl, he was probably trying to tell me so much stuff, but I wasn't availing myself to him. So how could I, but just like humans to get mad at God for our own wrongdoings. So I was very upset at God, like very. I did so much crying. And I was just like, what was all this for? So I do what I always do when I'm scared and not operating in faith. I go back to my baby daddy. It's either my baby daddy or my grandma. They're like, as much as they torment me, they're always available. So, and they're familiar because it's the same spirit, you know what I'm saying? So I'll go back with him. And so I just completely abandoned everything. Like God told me to quit. I'm trying to go back to work. I'm trying to do everything in my own strength to make things work. Because in my mind, God had failed me, which he truly didn't. So I was mad at God for like a good month. And I think it's like, it wasn't until September where I started really talking to him again. And even then, like, there was still a wall there. And because I had allowed the enemy so much room to come in and plant these lies about God. So it's like, I handled it the best way I could with God, but we still had a lot of work. I still had a lot of work to do, so, and in that I completely regretted going back to my baby daddy house because yeah, there was torment there, but it also just felt like almost a get back. Like you left me the first time, so I'm gonna like do you worse this time. We weren't back together, you know what I'm saying? But I was still in his space and he flexed his muscle every chance he could. He let me know every chance he could, this is my house. you do not live here. You know, he like put up cameras in the house, and he even wanted to put a camera like in the back room. I'm like, you don't need to put, why do you have cameras up? All of a sudden you want to put cameras up. Like, you know, he put like a ring type camera on his door, which makes sense. But then why do you have cameras in the house? You know, it just felt very invasive. I've never felt comfortable there at all. It's like I basically just stepped back into the past. I was doing all the heavy lifting with my kids. But now my daughter is older, and now like I see how he does not connect with my daughter and how it was negatively affecting her. So now I feel terrible because I done put my kids back into something because I chose fear over faith. And I just became miserable. And I felt like there was nothing else I could do. I'm like, how can I, like, it's my fault I'm here. It's my fault that I'm here. God gave me provision and I squandered it. And I've also been acting like a brat towards him. There's no way he's going to still make sure that I get to where I get to. But then he reminded me that he's a promise keeper. So regardless of your faults, if he says something, he's going to do something. And so, unfortunately, I did also fall back into sin when I got back there, which was very devastating. Because right before we left my house in Harrisonburg, I did a 3-day dry fast, as God instructed me to do. And that fast was for deliverance. I was a candidate for deliverance at this point because we had done all the heavy, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all learned all that stuff. We learned all that stuff. And so now I was ready for deliverance. And so I went through a very intense dry fast for 3 days. And I got delivered from all that junk, lust being one of them. Just to go back and have sex, fornicate with this man. And I knew that I had let these spirits back in. I could feel it immediately. Like, I felt so terrible.